Well, we're talking about an era which was before the system which we have now, which we I can call various forms, but from the point of view of a worker, it's you could call it the boss system or the employee employer system or the wage system. But people are hired. If you're, of course, you can be self-employed, but the great majority of people in our society are employees and really know no other way to make a living other than becoming some form of an employee. But back in the time when the United States was founded, or before, during the colonial period, uh, there were very few people in that situation. That was kind of a very small class of people, the employees. Uh, Most people were from in Europe were either peasants, or you could be a serf, which is a much more just a step above a slave. Serfs had certain rights. The slavery it still existed in some parts of Europe, but the old kind of slavery from the Roman Empire had fairly much been abolished, and through the medieval period, people got into a serf situation, the working people, where they owed certain responsibilities to manorial lords, and in exchange for that, they got certain privileges, and there was a lot of common land that they were able to work for their own benefit. But it was still a form of a much deeper form of slavery than peasantry. So the class ladder in that time period, at least in England and Northern Europe, you had kind of serfs at the bottom of the class ladder, and then peasants who were much more independent. Still, of course, you had landed peasants and landless peasants. My one of my grandfathers from Romania was a landless peasant who came to America because he wanted his dream of being in America was to be a landed peasant, which in our terms is to be a small farmer. But which is very similar to the aspirations of those people who came over here. They were mostly peasants, mostly landless peasants who wanted to come to America, and often signed themselves into what was called indentured servantry, which was a form of slavery with a time limit on it, and kind of a contract to be a slave for this person for 3 years in exchange for passage over. And and after that, their American dream was to get a little plot of land somewhere and just become a subsistence farmer, or a landed peasant. And it didn't really work out that way for a lot of people, but that was what brought the early generations of people to America. Late 1700s, early 1800s, which is the early 19th century, is the beginnings of industrialization. Before that, even up to say the year 1800, most work was done by hand tools, which pretty much anybody could have access to. You did have a class of skilled artisans, and you had guilds, which were set up, or which were the equivalent of what we would consider unions today, except that guilds included masters. So you had masters and journey people and apprentices, and it was a system in which people could, as they developed their skills, rise in that system to become masters. In the system, the masters would control the workshop. They would be like bosses are today, except with a big difference was that the master actually worked there and was just a much more highly skilled person. While here the boss, may be there, may not be there, but maybe just be a business person. But but in the old European system, the master was a highly skilled person who worked with his or her hands, and who worked themselves up to the point where they were the leader of the workshop. And as the boss system developed, that separated, where you had the owner, the master became the boss, and guilds became unions where the masters or the bosses were excluded. The union became an organization of employees, of journey people, and and maybe apprentices. But it was the purpose of the union was to negotiate working conditions and wages and various other situational arrangements involving the work situation, and do that through collective bargaining between the workers and the boss. And that being in a guild where you're in the same organization as the master or the boss, that didn't work. So that came with as the Industrial Revolution, as industrialization set in the beginning of the 19th century. And that was actually also the beginnings of what we think of as capitalism. The system, the market system, the capitalist market system, developed so that you had an increasingly large number of workers who were employees, and employees permanently, and a smaller and smaller percentage of people who were in control, who were the bosses, and who were the employers.